for joining us here today, Greg. First off, the first question is just how you would define what 360 does. And then you consider yourself at a cocktail party and someone says, tell me about 360 Yield Center.
Sure. Well, my 360 Yield Center is all about nitrogen. You know, we spent our life in planter and planter attachments, and when we made that switch and we started 360 Yield Center, we knew that nutrient by plant is where the future is going to be. And so we based all of our technology and engineering efforts around nitrogen. Without question, water probably first for yield, and then nitrogen comes right in behind that. It's a high input, and at the same time, it can have a tremendous impact on yield. So that's where we really focus. We key in on it, and we really hone in on that area. You know, we started in 1993 from the ground up. We were a farm family. We didn't have a lot of resources, and we just built it one step at a time from the ground up. When I started 360, I said, you know, I don't have all that much more time, and we kind of started from the top down, the opposite side, and we went out and found the right talent, and we brought them in, and it's been very successful for us. It's a different approach. At the same time, then you'll have some turnover, because when you bring in that kind of talent, everybody is looking to bring those kind of people on their team. So there's been some movement back and forth, but at the same time, it's been a real pleasure. I enjoy the challenge and getting it to be where it needs to be. The end result is the same. We bring technology to help farm families get better. I am driven to help young farm couples be successful in farming. So to do that, you need technology that's simple, but very effective. In other words, you got to price it right, but it has to be able to have a good outcome. You have to be able to move the needle on yield. And if you can do that and change their profit schedule, you're going to be in the driver's seat. So a lot of as far as our, moving of dealers, a lot of those same dealers come on board with us. It's been a real pleasure to work with them. We have a great relationship with them, so it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So years ago, when Precision Planting was sold, correct?
That's right.
So a lot of people could have said, this is the dream. This is to cash it out. Could have gone put your feet up on a beach somewhere. Tell us about why you did what you did next.
I hear that all the time, and we're probably working harder now we've ever worked in our life. And I felt like we were pretty busy before. So, and we have a lot of different entities. I mean, we have a pretty good sized farming operation. We have farm ground in 3 different states. Illinois is about 6,500 acres that we really key on. Almost all those acres are research, which is a lot of fun. That's where it really starts and learn. Obviously, we have a dairy. So we have 7 children, and all the children are involved. All of our kids are involved with us in business in one aspect or another, whether that's on the farming side, and the 360 side, or the dairy side. And so that's what Cindy and I tick for. So it was never a question that we're going to take this income and just relax. It was, what can we do? How can we change ag? Commodities prices are what they are. And you and I quickly learned we can complain about them, but we can't change Chicago Board of Trade. But what we can change is how we manage our businesses, and detailed, and how we are willing to change our farming systems, whether that's into cover crops or strip till or no-till or full till, whatever works for you. And we work with the nation. We work in foreign countries. I've always been involved in grower groups and high yield clubs. Ken Ferry, really good agronomist, probably one of the best in the country. Worked personally with him for years and years. And I watch his grower groups, and I'd see guys that would fall off out of that grower group because they just couldn't adapt. And we would go to their farms, and they'd have the same problem year after year after year. And I'd be like, after the 4th year, I'm like, we're done here. I mean, we've been here 4 times to talk about the same problem, and you're not willing to fix it. You probably just need to stay here, and we need to move on. And so I think with Precision Planting, it was about create products as fast as we can and educate what the need is, and then bring that technology out at an affordable price. We always worried about return on investment. The ROI, to me, the dream product is when it's simple, very effective, and it pays for itself in half the growing season. So half the planting season, half the nitrogen season, you broke zero, and now you're adding money. That's when growers say, I can see that we need to invest in this. So that's our business plan. To do that, you need to be what we call E-speed, entrepreneur speed. The other one is BC, which is big corp speed. So it'll take John Deere I don't mean to be beating up on them, but it takes them 3 to 4 years to bring out a product, and it should, because they have to protect their customer base, their brand. In individual business like we are, we take risk beyond measure. Growers know if they deal with Greg on a new product first year, it's probably going to have some problems, but they have to trust that we're going to stand behind it, which then means we get a lot of acres and we get a rapid introduction. We'll fix it on the fly. We'll make it right to the grower. And so there's tremendous trust, and you never violate that trust. You always stand behind your product.
Tell us about your path to where you were. At age 15, age 20, what you thought you were going to be doing and the path that took you where you ended up.
You know, Mike, I was never satisfied with the way equipment ran. So from day one, we've always tinkered. I can remember long before we even had a farm shop, I'd be laying out on a White Rock Drive with nothing but a vice grip and a crescent wrench and trying to reshape and rebend and re-weld. Always enjoyed that side of it. Just always trying to make it one step better. And so, precision really started when I went to 20-inch narrow row corn in 93. Planters weren't designed to do that. And so we immediately started to reinvent the meter so it would singulate at that low RPM. And that's really what started the whole path. And once I jumped in, I said, man, these meters need a lot of help. And so in our own shop, we just were building our own. We had a 20-row planter. I was just tinkering and designing and building for that 20 row, and pretty soon neighbors started coming and saying, well, can you do mine? You know how that goes. And so Cindy and I decided, we were raising hogs and it wasn't fun. And we were not making any money. And I said, I see a need here. And so we just started custom setting planters, and it just grew. And, OEMs made the decision, right or wrong, that they weren't going to sell us planter parts, which was the best thing that ever happened to me. And when they said, you know what, we're going to shut you off. We can see that it's growing so fast. We were spending millions of dollars on parts from OEMs. And I finally, when they shut me off, I said, great, we'll just make our own. And that's how it all started. Yeah.
That happened early 90s?
That happened early. Yeah. By 97, we were starting to make our own planter parts because we just couldn't buy enough. And best thing that ever happened to me. So a lot of times when you get those disappointments in business, it's an opportunity. It looks like a real roadblock. And you say, oh, crap, what are we going to do here? How are we going to meet the demand? Well, get creative and figure out a way around it. And it's not always the easiest path, but it's usually for the best. Yeah. It's usually for the best.
Yeah. I take it that would be a major defining moment in your career. And what would some of the other...
Yeah, I think when we hired our first professional engineers, when the year I hired... 3 really good crackerjack young engineers. And at that point, we knew no bounds. And we said, we're going to design a precision meter from the ground up. And then we said, we're jumping in the vacuum side. And once we knew, and we developed the recipe, it's no different than when you bake cookies or a cake. And once you figure out the system of inventing, and you understand how rough prototypes test smoother, better second gen, we always call it second gen, third gen, fourth gen, and rapid prototyping. I'll never forget the year we figured out that we could rapid prototype something in 7 days. And with the new 3D printers at that time, was just brand new. We were sending it off to Chicago. We could send a print, and in 7 days, we could get back a plastic part, true, not very strong, but enough that you could test it for 15, 20 minutes before it broke. That changed our whole world. Once we discovered that rapidness of what we could do, then we were off to the races. And so I don't know if I ever answered the question why we didn't go to the beach. It's just not in us. I'm just driven to make things better. And there's something about meeting a grower. When a grower walks up to you and says, why drop changed the way I farm? And he'll have a story. And, he said, Greg, I added $80 an acre income. There's something inside of you. It's not about the sale so much. It's about the fact that you made a difference. Now, not maybe everybody's DNA is the same. I'm not saying that Cindy and I don't want to make money. But at the same time, we realize you've got to build a business before the books aren't going to be in the black day one. Yeah. If they are, I look at you, so it takes time and you got to be smart about it and you build. But that's why you surround yourself with people that have a unique talent.
To inventory both the good good defining moments and the challenging ones that made you in your business is who you are. What are the other ones?
You know, when there's times when product just flat out won't work. I'll never forget, you know, we designed a special backing plate and thought we had it. We tested, we got in a certain spot, and it flat out just wore out. In 100 acres, it was wore out. And I'll never forget those first calls. And then how you react at that moment. You know, there was a time and we had a bad roll of steel go to a supplier, and all the fingers and the mechanical fingers were all of a sudden were starting to break. And there's about 30 hours there. Once you hear it, it's what you do that next 24 to 30 hours that's going to make the difference. You draw your team together, you usually bring 3 of your best together, and you have to find, first of all, you got to find the solution. And then, okay, then once we find what we think the problem is, how are we going to fix it? When you bring those people together, it's never about, Mike, what did you do? How did this happen? If you do that, you're done. You bring them together and say, team, we have a major issue. What do we need to, in the next 12 hours, we have to discover. Nobody goes home. And we stop sales. You put out a notice to dealers. It's painful. And you say, look, we think we have an issue. We're going to hold. A problem can turn into the best thing that ever happened to your business. It's how you handle it. How many times have you gone to a restaurant and had a bad meal? And the way that restaurant handled that, you went out and told all your buddies and your friends, you need to go there. This place is awesome. If you'd have had a good meal, you'd have come back there and probably wouldn't have said anything. But the fact that you had a bad meal, how they handled it, and it lit you up, and you said, I've never seen this kind of response. That's your goal as a businessman.
So that surrounding yourself with people who don't back up. What have you learned in terms of people you bring into your organization?
Yeah, I have people ask me all the time, how in the world did you find so many talented people? Well, I hire, obviously I'm not the only one in the interview, but I'm looking them in the eye. It's as simple as this. If the ball is going to go across the line out of the court, are they going to die for it? Your degree is somewhat important. I mean, you got to have the basic fundamentals. But if you have a master's or a doctor's degree in engineering, I could really care. I look at you, number one is, will you fit in the team? You can never bring somebody in a team of 12 to 20 that's going to be dynamite and blow it up. They could be the greatest single all-star three-point shooter in the world, but if the team then fractures, you really lost. So I'm always watching for that. I look them in the eye. I want to see some spark there. I want to see some drive. Usually we're hiring young. When I say young, I mean 5-6 years out of college or even younger. We also run 6 interns every year from Purdue, from Iowa State to Illinois, and I'm test driving them. You know, if I was a young engineer and I would want to really learn, I would go to a company like ours and say, don't pay me. I just want to work for you for nothing. Now, we pay them, obviously. But we're only going to take 6, and we might have 15 that we interview. If you really wanted in with Greg, I would just come and say, I want to do learn everything I can this summer. And I want to be on a project that matters. I don't want to be over in the corner, you know, measuring increment parts. I want to be where it matters. And so we really work hard on hiring the right people and getting the right team assembled.